Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello and a very warm welcome to the latest episode. Thank you so much for joining me. It's Friday, the 17th of July, 2026, and it's the end of another long week of heat. I think actually I have got a little bit acclimatized to it because I have been wearing a jumper in the mornings. It's always a little bit chilly on the field in the mornings, doesn't get any sun whatsoever. And I've really needed it, but it has been off by about 11 o'clock in the morning. Now, I am recording this episode up on the field. Hopefully there won't be too much dreadful background noise. I am in the feed room to just stay out of the heat, which is still quite hot. So let's start with some sad news. You knew this was coming. So my little chicken Molly has gone to chicken heaven. She wasn't well when I spoke to you on Tuesday, and she passed away during the week. She's made such a valuable contribution to the flowers in terms of all her poo over the last couple of years, so I'm enormously grateful for that. And hopefully she's found her sister Gertrude up in chicken heaven, and she's told her all about Gertie's daughter, Mo. Gertie passed away before Mo grew up. She was just a couple of days old, actually, and so she hasn't seen Mo growing up. But Mo's now got a daughter, so Gertie's actually a grandma. So hopefully Molly will go and tell her all of that when she sees her. Now, marketing. I told you I was going to do some marketing. Well, you may have heard some really loud cheers on Wednesday night, and that was me putting my big girl pants on and actually doing some marketing. And I can't tell you how much I tried to kick it into the long grass. I tried to do so many other different things. I was just, I was almost at the point of actually cleaning my house instead of doing this marketing. That's how much I was trying to avoid it. It's my least favorite thing, and I'll do absolutely anything to avoid it. And I couldn't put it off any longer, partly because I really need to sell some more stems, and also because I told you about it, and therefore I just felt like I had to actually do something about it. So I'd had this thought in the back of my mind for a while about finding some new florists in my area, and also some other sorts of people that I thought might make use of flowers, not in significant volumes, but nevertheless people that would be interested. And I came up with the idea of local caterers, people who cater for private parties, for it could be at home weddings, that kind of thing. People that cater for, any kind of special occasion, pop-up events or private functions, anything like that. So I found a selection in my local area, and I wrote them an email and I sent it to them. And I'm fairly happy with the bulk of the email, but I just put this ridiculous email headline in, like the subject line, which I was been thinking about it all day today and wondered whether I should have written back to them all and said, I'm really sorry about the subject line. It was something really daft, and I think it included the word elevate, which was just really pretentious. And if any of them actually get to know me, they'll realize I'm not like that as a person. I just was overthinking it for so long, and rewriting and redrafting and going away, coming back to it. And in the end, I was like, I really just need to send these emails. And so they went out with this silly subject line. Anyway, one person got back straight away to say they'd never been asked for flowers for events, but they'd bear me in mind if they did, which is great. I mean, I don't know who coined the phrase a fast no is as good as a yes, because honestly, we all want to hear yes, first of all, but it's good to know that at least my emails did get through, and I'm very grateful that person wrote back and said no, but if in the future. So that's great. And then I had another message from another caterer saying that they were interested and it sounded a lovely idea, and could they come and visit the field and have a look at what I've got. So that is super exciting, and I will organize that. Very exciting. And then very randomly, having done all of that marketing for caterers, a cake lady got in touch with me asking me if I had any stems to go on top of a cake that she was making. And she's not somebody that I'd messaged at all. And then I got to think, well, I really need to think about contacting cake makers, because of course they are going to need to put flowers on the cakes, especially if they're wedding cakes or anything like that. So that's a whole other thing that I need to be thinking about. So I think the moral of the story is that I really shouldn't have been so afraid of doing the marketing, and I really should have done it a lot sooner and been a lot more confident about it. It's okay to have a no, but the excitement level when you get a yes is off the scale. So it was well worth doing that. Now, strap yourself in because I have the most gripping, exciting conversation you will hear this week, all about water pumps. Now, after I talked about my new pump on Tuesday, I think I'd only just got it. Not sure if I'd used it. I don't think I'd used it at that point. I have been using it this week and it is absolutely amazing. And I had a couple of comments or a couple of questions, actually, DMs on Instagram asking me about the pump and where I'd got it from. So I thought I'm going to talk about it tonight because if you are at your wit's end with watering and you are thinking about a pump, then I thought, well, at least I'll share what I've just done and it might be of some use to you. So I got my pump from my friend Jeff, who runs a very small online delivery business on the internet. You might know it better as Amazon. And I wanted to buy the best thing I could afford with the smallest budget that I actually have. So what I've ended up with is a make called a Viaton 18-volt cordless submersible pump kit. I'll put the details in the show notes if you actually want to get the specific one. And it has been absolutely amazing. Super, super simple to set up, and it runs perfectly, and it's amazing. So let me just go through the things that I was considering when I bought it. So the first one is the strength of the pump. Now, water butts, if you're going to be pumping out of water butts, they only contain a couple of 100 litres of water, whereas the IBCs that I have are 1,000 litres. So I needed something powerful enough to be able to reach down into the bottom of an IBC, pump the water up, and then out across the field. So power was important to me. And there are a number of ways of working out how powerful something is. The easiest way is probably when I go through the later points, that will make it easier. But basically, mine's got a 90-watt motor and then an 18-volt pump. And it pumps 2,000 litres an hour. So I'll come back to that in a second. It's important to know the flow rate. And what it means is that I would actually empty one of my entire IBCs in 30 minutes if I wasn't really careful. I would not want to use that much water. I try and be super, super conservative with mine. So the second thing to factor in was battery or mains. Now mine has a 4 amp battery. I'm off grid on the field, so I had no choice but to go with a battery. If you have mains power and it is possible to run power to your pump, I would have gone with a mains one myself. The mains ones are normally cheaper. Anything to do with a battery is just more expensive. The mains ones are also more powerful and they don't stop running when they run out of charge, which is what happens to everything with a battery. But obviously you do have to wire the cables across properly and make sure nobody electrocutes themselves in the process and that they are all waterproof and all the rest of it. I'm not a huge fan of burying cables. I think you're supposed to get these special cables that you can't dig through and then bury them and all the rest of it. And I think that's a nightmare because having dug up quite a few of those when I've been gardening for people, I just think they're a disaster. People forget where they've put them, they don't mark them, then they move house and the new people have no idea. In fact, I nearly dug through my own electricity cable at home once and blew myself up just because of that exact scenario. So I prefer to keep all of mine above the ground, staked, so that you can see exactly where they are. But I've not gone for that this time because I don't have any mains power up here. Now, the advantages, of course, of the battery are exactly like that. When you don't have any mains power, you don't have any choice, but also it just means that you can put them absolutely anywhere where your water is. So my battery actually comes with a clip in the box. It comes with 2 fixings, one to fix it to like a post or a tree or a shed or a building or something, solid building. And then the second one is the clip. So I have actually clipped my battery pack to the metal frame of my IBC that surrounds the plastic. So you can clip it to whatever you want to. It's very, very useful and perfect if you're in the middle of a field. But the disadvantage, of course, of the battery is that it is more expensive to buy the first time. It does have a limited runtime. Mine will run for about 40 minutes. Apparently, I haven't actually used it for that long yet, but I'm going to have to take it home and charge it tonight so it's ready for next time. And the battery will eventually run out. Now, most tool companies say that you cannot use another brand's battery in their tools, but sometimes you can. I mean, often you can, unless the fittings are different. But you do have to check and make sure you don't put a brand in that's going to set on fire, and then your warranty is going to be void with the main brand. But if you've got tools like Bosch, Kyobi, Makita, you can swap their batteries between their implements. Although, I mean, it's always a good idea to have a spare battery, but you can only use one tool at once anyway, unless you've got someone using one with you. So battery is what I went for. Now, the flow rate. So this is one of the important bits anyway. A flow of around, I had to look this up, but a flow of around 1,000 litres an hour is apparently a nice, gentle flow. It will also obviously depend on the length of the hose that you're using for the water to flow through. 2,000 litres an hour is good to very good. That's what I went for. 4,000 litres an hour is very fast, and I would strongly recommend you only did this on the mains, or you will just blow through all your water extremely quickly. So if you were just doing something right next door to a water butt that you didn't need to have, masses and masses of litres of water extracted really quickly, you could go for a pump that just does a smaller flow rate. Now, there's another thing to consider called the maximum head. Now, this refers to how high the pump can push water. So it basically means if the pump is sitting in the bottom of a water butt or an IBC, it's got to come up the entire height of the IBC. And mine are probably, I don't know how tall they are, maybe 4 feet, 5 feet or something like that. Yeah, I should have checked that before I spoke to you. Anyway, it's a big 1,000-litre one. So the water's got to come up the height of the tank. It's got to come out of the top, and then it's got to be run along a hose, and it could be a really, really long hose. And then it's got to go through a spray gun or a lance. So you want to make sure that you're buying one that's got a decent max head rate for it, so that it has actually got the power to be able to push the water those kind of distances. So mine is a 20-meter one, which is adequate. It's more than adequate, actually. It's great. I've got no complaints about that. But that's just something to bear in mind. You want to get the strongest one that you can afford within your budget. Now, pressure. This is an important one as well. It's basically an indication of how strong the pump is and how well it's going to perform pumping that water out of your container and right down the end of the hose pipe. So the stronger the pressure, or the greater the pressure, the stronger the spray you're going to get at the end of the hose. And mine is 2 bars. Now, hose size fittings. Anytime anyone says fittings, I must say my eyes absolutely glaze over. I find this so complicated, and I just wish there was like one universal one in the whole world, and then we didn't all have to try and work out what's what. And also, if you do metric conversions, this is also complicated because they do everything in imperial. And I'm used to doing imperial, so it's fine. But I just think it's one of those quirky things. Everything's in like 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 5/8 of an inch. I mean, whatever is that. Adapters are widely available, so it's really not that crucial. Apparently, mine has a 3/4 inch outlet. And then I went and bought 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch connectors, again, from my friend Jeff and his little online business, and they have all connected up absolutely fine and everything works. The other thing that I wanted was an auto switch off. This is so that it shuts the pump off when it's out of water. Very, very useful so that you don't actually burn your pump out. And I thought in the event that I was like 50 meters away from the pump and I didn't realize it was running dry, I don't want to come back and find that it set itself on fire or something ridiculous. So I think most of them come with that as standard. It's not like a fancy feature or anything. It's just a very, very good idea. If you can, grab one with a timer. This is something that I didn't really think that I would need, to be honest, but now I've got it, I'm wildly excited about it. Mine has got timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 20 minutes. And what I've done the first few times I've been doing it is set the timer for 5 minutes. And then I went to see exactly how much I could water without rushing, without panicking, doing exactly the right flow within 5 minutes. So I've worked out that I can water everything in 20 minutes. And that's partly because I don't have a huge growing space, and also because I put my IBCs dead center in the middle of the growing space so that everything is coming out from the IBCs. The other feature to consider is whether it pumps clean or dirty water. Mine does dirty water. So, for example, if you were going to empty a pond out, mine would be perfectly safe to do that. If you're going to be if you're going to be sucking water out of things where there is a lot of dirt or debris or muck or whatever, then I would go for a dirty water one, because the clean ones are a little bit more delicate and they can clog, although you can, of course, clean them, but you really don't want to be faffing around with that if you're in the middle of watering. And you always get some debris in water butts and tanks, even if you have, mesh filters and protectors, like just stuff always seems to get in there. And I think it's probably just easier to buy a dirty water one, and then you've kind of covered yourself for all eventualities. Now, the hose length supplied. So most of these ones come with a certain amount of hose attached. Mine came with 2 meters, which is enough to attach to the pump, drop the pump, not literally drop, gently lower it down into the bottom of the IBC. So 2 meters is enough for the bottom of the pump sitting on the bottom of the IBC to come all the way up the IBC, out the top, across the top, and then clip onto the side of the metal frame. And then at that point, it gets attached by connectors to the lengths of hose. So I don't need any more than 2 meters, but that's something to bear in mind as well. Now, I went and bought 50 meters of hose separately, and then I've chopped it into 3 separate lengths, and then bought lots of hose connectors and multiple packs of spray guns so that I can just leave the hose lying in the lengths of the particular beds. What I have a real thing about hoses. They hate me. I hate them. I hate moving them around, lugging them around, winding them in, winding them out, unkinking them, everything. So what I wanted for here was to just have as many separate lengths of hose as I want. And when I'm ready to use that hose, I just connect it up to the pump, and then I go off and use it rather than having to move them around, because otherwise the ends of the beds get smashed, plants get knocked over, and it just gets really silly. So, excuse me, that's what I wanted to do, and that is what I have done. And that seems to be working out fine. The final thing to consider is the build quality and the warranty. Now, most of these things should come with a warranty, but the build quality is hard to check out before you actually get it. Things with lots of plastic parts in are going to be more affordable, but then eventually they will wear out. Metal parts will last longer, of course, but they will need a little tiny bit more care and attention, and they are more expensive. So I find the easiest way to do it is just to read all of the reviews for the product, or as many as you can stomach, and especially the bad reviews. They're the ones I always go to first, and then make a judgment about whether I think it's worth buying that item. And just double check that you get a warranty. But it's tricky buying things online because you don't know where they've come in from, if they've come in from overseas, and if you're probably unlikely, or I'm probably unlikely, to send a product back of that kind of weight to China if that's where it came from. It's just not going to be likely. I'm just going to take a bit of a hit on it or try and fix it myself. But it's just something to think about. And the alternative to the batteries is to buy is to get a pump that's powered from a car battery or something similar. I think there's probably adaptations for that. Definitely, I don't know what I'm talking about with that, but I know it is possible to connect things up to car batteries and run them from them. But I don't know any more details. But that's an option that you could think about as well. So I hope that was helpful. One final thing is to make sure, or just to double check when you're buying, that you're actually buying a kit, if that's what you want, rather than just something that comes without a battery. I was looking at getting a Bosch one for ages, and I did all the checks and investigations, read all the reviews, was just about to press buy, and then I noticed that it didn't have a battery, and that's the only reason I could afford it, because the battery was separate. So what I eventually went and bought was a kit, and that includes the battery and the battery charger. So Bosch is obviously like a premium brand, and they are much more expensive. So the batteries can add, at least the cost of the kit again to get a proper one with a proper company like Bosch. But the brand I got, I think I paid £85 for my kit, which I think is really, really good value considering how powerful it is and how well it's working and all the features. So, as you know, I don't make any commission, I don't make any money on anything. I'm just telling you this for information. And do make sure, obviously, that you get the right thing for you. So, if you even want to go and get one, but I'm absolutely raving about mine. I love it. Love it. I wish I'd bought it last year. Now, tonight's plant profile, another one I can't believe that I haven't done this before until now. Antirrhinum, snapdragons. Like, oh my goodness. So I love these guys. Every year I lose my mind over these guys. I have to say, last year, 2025, they were amazingly straight. I don't know how I did it, actually. I grow them from seed every year. And I just had this lovely little section of them, and they were all perfectly upright. I didn't really stake them until the last minute, and they just stayed upright. They flowered beautifully. They were perfect. 2026 crew, they're just all over the shop. They just went in the ground and then just kind of scattered. They've all fallen over before I got them netted. They are netted now, I have to say. But while they were down, they branched every which way. So that's a little bit chaotic, and they are really only going to be good for bud vases, I think, although they may be able to go to a wedding if they are in some kind of shape by then. One of the best reasons to grow these things is they're just so beautiful, and they are highly desirable by florists and really, really in demand. Native to the southern Mediterranean on rocky hillsides and rough ground, but they have been modified quite a bit, and the new varieties are really stunning. Now, why I think florists would love them? Well, they're super pretty. You get a lot of bang for your buck because they've got all these individual little florets going up the stem. They give height. They're a spike flower or line flower, so they've got that shape in bouquets as well. Very elegant, lovely colour range. And the ones that are sort of a bit multicoloured, they're really clever for kind of bridging between two different colours as well. Also got a long vase life. Great for growers. Well, I find them very easy to grow, and they seem to behave themselves until they get in the ground. So like they are the perfect seedlings. High stem yield from one plant. You can get lots of branches coming off them, so that's great, and a long season if you manage to grow successions, and good prices for them because the florists really love them. They are grouped in different groups. There are 4 different groups, which is a grouping based on the conditions that they like, so temperature and day length. And it is important to know this. I have not fully got my brain around this year. I know there's only 4 groups, but I really need to focus on them a bit for next year. Growing the right ones at the right time of year will make all the difference to how they perform. The group 1s and 2s like cooler temperatures, and the groups 3s and 4s like warmer temperatures, 4 being the ones that flower in the summer and they really like it warm. So if you try growing a group 4 in the winter, you'll have problems, and conversely, if you try and grow a group 1 in the summer, I'm not entirely sure what will happen, whether they will just give up the ghost. I'm not sure, but it is definitely worth bearing in mind. And that, of course, is the way to get your successions all through the year, by kind of going through groups 1 to 4. They like full sun, and they like a free draining, organic, rich soil. So these are not the ones that you can starve to death and just not take any care or attention of them whatsoever. They do need that little bit of care. The seeds also need light in order to germinate, so don't cover them when you're sowing them, and plant them close together for taller and straighter stems. Now, the pinching's interesting one. There's 2 options here, so you can pinch them or you can not pinch them. If you pinch them, you will get more stems, but they are obviously slightly smaller than if you didn't pinch. If you don't pinch, you will get one show-stopping central stem. And there is a grower in the States, I can't remember her name now, but I follow her on Instagram, and she does about a 50-50 split on her crop. So she'll leave she'll pinch half of them and leave the other half. And the ones that she doesn't pinch, she gets the most outrageous stems from them. Just unbelievable. Support. They do need support because they will fall over, and they are those geotropic flowers. So the second they hit the deck, they will start growing upright, which begs the question why they just couldn't manage to stay upright in the first place. But there we go, one of those mysteries. So definitely need support, and don't leave it too late like me and then have to deal with the chaos afterwards. Get the support in early. Harvesting them, they need harvesting when about the bottom third of the florets are open, ideally before they get pollinated, but this is obviously a battle against the bumblebees and you might not win that one. The florets that gets pollinated will start to fade after about 1 to 3 days after pollination, when the fertilization takes place, and then the floret will try and make seed instead. So if you can beat the bumblebees to it, then great. The biggest bugbear with antirrhinums is rust. I mean, they have a number of issues, actually, unlike some plants, which is so straightforward. But these guys do, because they're just obviously elegant and desirable, and therefore there's going to be a whole load of problems that goes with them. Rust, obviously, is the biggest one. Now, it's caused by a fungus, which is quite specialized to snaps and close plant relatives of snaps. So it's not just if you get rust on your snaps, it doesn't mean you're going to get rust on everything. This particular fungus feeds specifically on the nutrients in the tissue of the snaps. And you'll start off by seeing tiny pale yellow spots or bumps on the leaves, and it'll develop into these orangey brown pustules in a couple of weeks. And I had them all over the snaps last year. Very disgusting. It's solvable by just stripping all the leaves off before you give them to any florist, but the leaves also start turning yellow as well as all the nutrients get extracted, and then you get weaker stems. Happens for us in the UK kind of August, September, October. I'm guessing it's going to be earlier this year because of all the heat and all the strange conditions that we're having, and it kind of kicks in when we get the cooler nights. So to avoid the spread, you have to try and water the soil very carefully. Make sure you don't get any splashback, because if any of those little pustules break open, the spores, and there are thousands of them, will just come flying out all over everything. And then remove the infected leaves as soon as possible, and don't compost them unless you are hot composting, or not just hot composting, if your compost heap gets up to like a really high temperature to kill the spores. Otherwise, just bag them up and get rid of them. I mean, I don't know that it's entirely foolproof. I feel like if I've had it here on this field, then the spores are just going to be here. They're going to be in the ground. I'm going to have a problem every year. So anyway, it's always better to have good plant hygiene, but I don't think that's going to fix the problem entirely. Managing airflow is supposedly another technique, but I don't know how you work that around, because you've got to plant them close together for the spacings. Try and pick resistant varieties. I didn't take any notice of that. I just picked the prettiest ones that I wanted, so that's on me. And if you are a grower that uses fungicides, then you could of course spray them. Not something that I would be doing. And if you do spray, try and spray at night when the insects aren't feeding. But I don't use any chemicals up here, so I can't do that. So I shall just be keeping an eye out for the little yellow spots and try and get ahead of the game this year. So I hope you found all of that interesting. That is me for today. So, and that was Lion saying goodbye. Have you heard that as well? Bless him. Nice of him to wait till the end of the episode. Good boy. Well done, Lion. Have a wonderful weekend, and do please come back and join me on Tuesday for the next episode, because you know you're always very welcome. All the best.